So after my freshman year at Georgia Tech, everything turned out great, right? Wrong. 6 months later, everything changes for me. My mother is in a car accident and left in a coma. I remember getting a call from my younger brother, and he told me that Mom was in this car accident and she was in a coma, and that he asked me to come home and take care of her. And I said, no, I can't. I'm sorry. I have to do what's in front of me. But it was still a very painful time. And spring football practice rolled around. I was in, first string, outside linebacker, and having a good spring. And I noticed that when I hit people, I started hitting people, I'd get these stingers in my shoulders, and it would just be terribly painful on both shoulders, on both sides. And after like a week or so, I found out what the problem was, and my shoulder pads were broken in the back. We fixed the shoulder pads, and I thought that would make things better, but the stingers didn't go away. And then eventually, my shoulder started going completely out of socket, and I was in massive, massive pain. The team doctor at Georgia Tech, Fred Allman, examined my shoulders, and he said, Sam, I'm sorry to tell you this, but your shoulders have been permanently damaged, and I don't think you can play football again. And I was just totally devastated. My whole self-worth was connected to my performance on the football field. And I pleaded with him. I said, there's got to be a way. Coach Curry, fortunately, he's like, Sam, if you don't have to play another down, your scholarship's paid for, everything's good. But my self-worth was so connected to my performance on the football field, I couldn't bear the thought of not playing football. And Dr. Allman said, well, we can perform these radical surgeries and tighten everything down, put titanium screws in your shoulders, and you'll have a chance to come back. And I probably thought about that for 1 minute. I said, yeah, let's just have the surgeries and let's go forward. And I remember waking up from surgery. My arm is just immobilized like this. There's tubes coming out of my shoulder, blood's everywhere. I'm throwing up because of the pain. And I'm like, what did they do to me? I'm like, oh my gosh, what have I got myself into? And there's two people by my bedside, Bill Curry and Joan Conkey. Bill Curry, assured me that everything would be fine, was there, and it was wonderful to see him. And Joan Conkey, I'd met Joan a year earlier. When I first got to Atlanta, I wanted to go to church and met Joan and Don at church. And I remember going there in just blue jeans and a T-shirt, and they came up to me afterwards and asked about me, where I was from, and I told them I was going to Tech, and they invited me home for brunch to have breakfast with them. And I'll never forget this. When I came home with them, Don told me, he said, Sam, you have family here, and if there's ever anything you need, just feel free to come here. Out of nowhere, for no reason whatsoever. They just extended love and acceptance to me. And they became a safe haven, a safe house for me to go to. And I would go there periodically on the weekends when I felt stressed at school and just relax and enjoy their company. Well, Joan was there with me at this surgery because she didn't want me to be alone. And the doctor told me, he said, Sam, you can't move your arm like this for a few weeks because if you do, it'll ruin the surgery. And after a few weeks from there, I was barely being able to move my arm here. So what do? I had this one operated on, right? And for some reason, I think that this is going to be different than this one. It wasn't different. It was the same. It was just as excruciating, just as painful. And as a result of this, I lost a bunch of weight. My color got real yellow, it was jaundice. All the muscles I'd built up over the years atrophied, and I was pathetic. And for the first time in my life, I think I fell deep into depression, And my friends, they knew me as a lively, kind of lighthearted guy, and I think they looked at me and they wanted to cheer me up, and they said, Sam, we know exactly what you need. And I said, what do I need? And they said, you need a road trip. And I'm like, road trip? They go, yeah. And it was just code for, we need a designated driver who doesn't drink to take us down to Florida so we can party. So all 13 of us pile into my friend Andy's van, and we trek on down to Destin, Florida. And I'm driving, I have, this arm is barely being able to move. This arm's in a sling, I'm driving. We finally get to Destin, Florida, and two of the guys go in and they check in at the front desk. And I'm sure they don't tell the person at the front desk that there's 13 of us, and they get one room. The whole college economies of scale kind of thing sets in. And I remember all my buddies are in the pool frolicking with all these fine-looking honeys and co-eds, and I'm over there in the sand or in the dirt again in this lounge chair, like taking Percocet and in this lounge chair, and I'm just looking around, and I'm in absolute hell. I'm in misery, complete misery, and I look at the ocean, and I see the beautiful aqua blue water coming in, and as the waves are going out, my hope of a better life sort of waves out with it. As the day went on, I got more and more depressed and sad, and finally I get to this point where I'm just sort of sick of it all. I see my friends, having this great time with all these girls, and I literally say to myself, my life sucks, and it can't possibly get any worse than it is right now. And at that very moment, yes indeed, a flock of seagulls flew overhead, and they pooped all over me. Boom, right here in the chest, man. A puny little chest, atrophied chest. Poop hit me here. Poop hit me in the head. I got poop in my eye. I had poop everywhere. I was crapped on. I was rendered a literal crapping stick. And you know what? What do your friends do in a moment like that? They're like, hey, look at Bracken. There's poop all over him, But in the dirt, in that lounge chair, once again, for the third time, I made a decision. It became a defining moment. I realized something really powerful. I realized that if I go around being sorry, feeling sorry for myself, thinking about how bad my life stinks, that I'm going to be rendered a crapping stick, that the world will just poop on me. And the world had spoken. So I took that moment and I burned it in my head, and I went back to Atlanta, and I started getting up at 4:30 and 5 a.m. every morning. I would swim for an hour, then I'd run back over, and I'd climb the fence at Bobby Dodd Stadium, and I'd run the whole entire stadium stairs. It took me an hour. And before my friends were getting out of bed to go to dining hall, I'd already worked out for 2 hours. I would go to class. After class, I would go to physical therapy to work very hard to regain the strength and flexibility that I lost. And then I'd go to tutoring, and then I'd start the whole thing over again. And at the end of 3 months, everything was worked out. It was all wonderful, right? No. What happened was at the end of 3 months, I was still having minimal gains. And it was really the first time in my life where the hard work thing didn't quite cut it. It didn't quite make it happen. And I was very, very discouraged. And I went to Coach Curry once again, and I sat down with him. And I said, Coach Curry, no one wants to come back from these injuries more than I do. I'm working really hard. I just don't know what to do. And fortunately, Coach Curry saw me as someone other than just a football player. He saw me as a whole person. And he listened very specifically to my concerns. And then he just smiled and he said, Sam, I want you to do something for me. I want you to go to the bookstore, and I want you to get a 3-ring binder. And I want you to put 4 tabs in that 3-ring binder. And I want you to label them mental, physical, emotional, and spiritual. And then I want you to put paper behind each tab. Then after you do that, I want you to write down where you're at in each of those areas right now. Take a personal inventory of yourself. Take a hard look in the mirror. Write down where you're at mentally. Write down where you're at spiritually and physically and emotionally. Then I want you to turn the page in each tab, and I want you to write down where you want to be a year from now. Be specific. Make sure your goals are narrow. You have a good gap and that they're clear. And then I want you to turn the page in each tab, and I want you to write down why, a compelling reason that you have the goal. And then I want you to do the same thing and turn the page in each tab, and I want you to write down how you're going to get there. So I want you to write down where you're at, where you're going, why you're going there, and how you're going to get there. And I want you to read that book every day. I want you to positively obsess about where you're going and why you're going there, and focus on how you're going to get there. Realize that I'm here to help you if you need my help. So I did exactly what he said, and I went to the bookstore and I wrote down some crazy goals, some really, really hard ones. I wanted to come back from I wanted to come back from my surgeries. I wanted to start on a great football team. I wanted to learn more about spiritual things. So I spent a lot of time in studying spiritual writings and religious writings. And I put down a lot of very powerful goals. The other thing that Coach Curry told me to do was at the end of 2 weeks, I want you to rip out the page where you're at. Really focus on where you're going and how to get there. As I did what he said, I spent 15 or 20 minutes a day with this book, and it made all the difference. It helped me hold myself accountable to the change that I wanted. And at the end of 1 year, every single thing I put in that book happened. Every single thing occurred. I regained a starting position on a great football team. I rose my GPA. I did all these wonderful things because Coach Curry introduced me to a process for change. I still do that today. It allows you to take big goals and chunk them down into small things. You know, everybody has their day in the dirt. Everybody suffers. Everybody has pain. It's what you do with it that makes the biggest difference. We can take bad things that happen to us and we can leverage those things to make our lives better and to help other people and make their lives better. It's the simple mission of the Orange Duffel Bag book. This is what we're trying to do. We're trying to take all of life's experiences and learn from them and grow from them and help each other on our journey. It's my hope and my prayer that somehow, some way, my story has helped you on your journey. And it will help you change, learn, and grow from your experiences, regardless of what happens to you. Good luck on your journey. May it take you to places beyond your wildest dreams.